A piece of aircraft wing washed ashore on Réunion Island in July 2015, over a year after MH370 disappeared. It was the first confirmed debris from the missing Malaysian airliner, found 4,000 miles from its intended flight path. But the barnacle growth patterns and damage analysis revealed something investigators hadn't expected, clues that would rewrite the timeline of the plane's final hours. Subscribe to the Ember File, where the ocean keeps its secrets until science finds the truth. July 29, 2015. Johnny Begg was cleaning the beach on Réunion Island, a French territory in the western Indian Ocean, when he spotted something unusual among the volcanic rocks and debris. A large, curved piece of metal, about 6 feet long, with what appeared to be aircraft marking. Begg had been maintaining this stretch of coastline for years, but he'd never seen anything like this. The metal was weathered, covered in marine growth, but clearly manufactured with precision. Along one edge, he could make out partial letters, 657BB. Within hours, aviation experts around the world would recognize those markings. They belonged to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, the Boeing 777 that had vanished without a trace 16 months earlier. The discovery of what investigators would confirm as a flaperon, a control surface from the aircraft's wing, marked the first breakthrough in the most perplexing aviation mystery of the modern era. But it also raised more questions than it answered. How had a piece of MH370 traveled over 4,000 miles from the plane's last known position? What could the marine biology attached to the debris tell investigators about the aircraft's final moment? And most importantly, if the flaperon had been drifting in the ocean for 16 months, where was the rest of the plane? To understand the significance of the Réunion debris, we need to go back to March 8, 2014, when Flight MH370 began what should have been a routine 6-hour journey from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The Boeing 777-200ER was one of the world's most reliable aircraft. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53, had accumulated over 18,000 flight hours. First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, 27, was completing his final training flights on the 777. The aircraft itself, registration 9MMRO, had been in service since 2002 with an exemplary safety record. At 12:41 a.m. Malaysian time, MH370 pushed back from Gate C1 at Kuala Lumpur International Airport with 239 people aboard, 227 passengers, and 12 crew members. The passenger manifest included families returning to China, business travelers, and 2 men traveling on stolen Austrian and Italian passports, a detail that would later consume investigators' attention. The flight proceeded normally for the first 40 minutes. At 1:19 a.m., Captain Shah made the last radio transmission. "Good night, Malaysian 370. 2 minutes later, at 1:21 a.m., the aircraft's transponder stopped transmitting. What happened next would confound aviation experts for years. Instead of continuing northeast toward Beijing, military radar showed MH370 turning sharply to the west, crossing the Malay Peninsula and flying toward the Indian Ocean. The aircraft continued flying for nearly 7 hours after disappearing from civilian radar. But no one knew this at the time. The initial search focused on the South China Sea, where the plane should have been. For days, aircraft and ships from multiple nations scoured the waters between Malaysia and Vietnam, finding nothing. Then, investigators discovered something unprecedented. Inmarsat, a British satellite communications company, had been receiving automated handshake signals from MH370 long after it disappeared from radar. These signals, generated every hour by the aircraft's satellite communication system, weren't designed for tracking. They were simply electronic confirmations that the plane was still powered and attempting to maintain satellite contact. But they provided a breadcrumb trail that would revolutionize aviation investigation. The last handshake came at 8:19 a.m. Malaysian time, more than 7 hours after MH370's final radio contact. The satellite data indicated the aircraft was somewhere along one of 2 possible flight paths, either north toward Central Asia or south into the Indian Ocean. Within weeks, investigators had ruled out the northern corridor. The southern Indian Ocean, one of the most remote regions on Earth, became the focus of what would become the most expensive search in aviation history. For nearly 3 years, Ships equipped with sophisticated underwater search equipment scoured 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. They found shipwrecks, geological features, and even previously unknown marine life, but no trace of MH370. Then came the debris discoveries. The Réunion Flight was just the beginning. In the months that followed, more than 30 pieces of debris confirmed or suspected to be from MH370 washed ashore across the western Indian Ocean. Mauritius, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar. The debris trail stretched across thousands of miles of coastline. Each piece told part of the story. Dr. Charitha Patiarachi, an oceanographer at the University of Western Australia, became one of the world's leading experts on MH370 debris analysis. His research on ocean currents and drift patterns provided crucial insights into the aircraft's final location. The debris doesn't lie, Dr. Patiarachi explained in his 2019 analysis. Ocean currents follow predictable patterns. By working backwards from where debris was found and when it was found, we can narrow down where the aircraft entered the water. The barnacle analysis proved particularly revealing. Marine biologist Dr. Joseph Pupin examined the organisms growing on the Réunion Flight and other debris pieces. The species composition, growth patterns, and size of the barnacles indicated the debris had been floating in specific water temperatures and latitude. Barnacles are like a biological clock, Dr. Pupin noted. They tell us not just how long something has been in the water, but what kind of water it's been in. The forensic analysis of the flaperon itself provided additional clues. Damage patterns suggested the aircraft had hit the water at high speed, but the relatively intact condition of the debris indicated parts of the plane hadn't been completely destroyed on impact. Malaysia's official investigation, released in 2018, concluded that the aircraft's communications and tracking systems had been deliberately disabled by someone with detailed knowledge of Boeing 777 systems. The plane had flown south into the Indian Ocean until fuel exhaustion, but questions remained. Who had taken control of the aircraft? Why had they flown it to one of the most remote locations on Earth? And where exactly was the main wreckage? In 2022, British aerospace engineer Richard Godfrey announced a breakthrough. Using a technology called Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, WSPR, Godfrey claimed to have tracked MH370's entire flight path by analyzing how the aircraft had disturbed radio signals between amateur radio operators. According to Godfrey's analysis, MH370 had crashed at coordinates 33.177 degrees south, 95.300 degrees east, approximately 1,900 kilometers west of Perth, Australia. The location was outside the official search area but consistent with the debris drift pattern. The WSPR data shows the aircraft made several course changes during its final hour, Godfrey reported. This suggests someone was actively piloting the plane until the very end. In 2023, Ocean Infinity, the marine robotics company that had conducted the most recent search for MH370, announced they were prepared to resume the search using advanced autonomous underwater vehicle. The company's CEO, Oliver Plunkett, stated they had new evidence that could locate the main wreckage. Meanwhile, families of the 239 people aboard MH370 continue to seek answers. Some have pursued legal action against Boeing and Malaysia Airlines. Others have funded independent investigations and search efforts. Grace Nathan, whose mother Ann Daisy was on MH370, has become one of the most prominent advocates for continued investigation. "We're not looking for closure," Nathan stated in 2024. "We're looking for answers. The debris tells us the plane crashed in the Indian Ocean, but we need to find the main wreckage to understand why. The latest analysis suggests the search has been focused on the wrong area." In 2024, researchers from the University of Tasmania published a study indicating that the debris drift patterns point to a crash site further north than previously believed. Dr. Charitha Patiarachi's most recent modeling, incorporating 10 years of additional debris discoveries, suggests MH370 crashed near coordinates 29 degrees south, 99 degrees east, approximately 300 nautical miles north of the previous search area. "Every piece of debris is a clue," Dr. Patiarachi explained. "The more pieces we find, the more accurate our reverse drift analysis become. We now have enough data points to narrow the search area to approximately 5,000 square kilometers. But perhaps the most significant development has come from analysis of the pilot's home flight simulator. In 2016, the FBI recovered deleted files from Captain Shaw's flight simulator. The data showed that he had practiced flying a route remarkably similar to MH370's actual flight path, including a final waypoint in the southern Indian Ocean near where the debris was found. This evidence, combined with the analysis showing the aircraft's systems were deliberately disabled, has led most investigators to conclude that Captain Shaw was responsible for the aircraft's disappearance. The motive remains unclear. Shaw had no known financial problems, no history of mental illness, and no apparent political grievances. His family and colleagues described him as a dedicated pilot and family man. Some investigators have suggested the act was suicide, but the elaborate nature of the flight path suggests something more complex. Others have theorized about political motivations related to the Malaysian government, though no evidence supports this theory. What remains certain is that MH370's disappearance was not an accident. The debris analysis has provided crucial insight. The aircraft remained intact until impact. It crashed at high speed into the ocean. Someone was controlling the plane throughout its 7-hour flight. The crash site is in the southern Indian Ocean, approximately 1,900 kilometers west of Australia. In March 2024, 10 years after MH370's disappearance, Ocean Infinity announced a new search proposal. Using lessons learned from the debris analysis and improved underwater search technology, the company believes they can locate the main wreckage within a 15,000 square kilometer area. The debris has given us a roadmap, stated Ocean Infinity's technical director. We know where the plane isn't. More importantly, we now have a much better idea of where it is. For the families of the 239 people aboard MH370, the debris discoveries have provided both hope and heartbreak. Each piece confirms their loved ones are gone, but also brings them closer to understanding what happened. The Réunion Flight, now housed in a secure facility in Toulouse, France, represents more than just a piece of aircraft debris. It's evidence of one of aviation's greatest mysteries and proof that even in the vast Indian Ocean, the truth has a way of washing ashore, because sometimes the ocean gives back what it was never meant to keep. This is the story of MH370's debris trail and how marine biology became the key to solving aviation's greatest mystery. Subscribe to the Ember File. Some secrets surface after 1,000 tides.